The emergency alerts kept coming and the whole courtroom was buzzing with confused voices. People were reading their phones and looking scared. Judge Williams tried to keep order, but even he seemed worried about what was happening. Katie felt a strange mix of fear and hope, because maybe now someone would believe her. Dr. Helen Carter was Katie's court-appointed guardian, and she had been listening to everything. She was a kind woman who worked with children from broken families. After the emergency alert started, she pulled Katie aside to a quiet corner of the courtroom. She knelt down so she could look Katie in the eyes and asked her to explain everything she knew about her mother's work. Katie took a deep breath and started to tell the whole story. 3 years ago, when Katie was only 9 years old, something happened that changed everything. Her mother came home one day and sat Katie down for a very serious talk. Lisa explained that Earth had made contact with creatures from another planet, and those creatures were not friendly. The aliens called themselves the Kythera, and they looked like giant insects with hard shells and many arms. They were much bigger than humans, and they thought humans were weak and stupid. The Kythera had been watching Earth for a long time, and they decided that humans did not deserve to live on such a beautiful planet. They wanted to take Earth for themselves and use humans as slaves or just kill them all. Katie remembered how scared she felt when her mother first told her about the aliens. Lisa had held her close and promised that the military was working very hard to protect Earth. The first attacks had been terrible, and many people died before humans figured out how to fight back. But humans were good at learning and adapting, and they started to win battles against the Kythera. The military leaders realized that regular soldiers were not enough to fight these aliens. They needed special forces who could use the alien technology against them. Scientists studied the Kythera weapons and ships that were captured in battle. They learned how to make human soldiers stronger and faster and smarter. The best soldiers from each branch of the military were chosen for this special program. Lisa Morrison had been a Navy SEAL for 8 years before the aliens came. She was already one of the best soldiers in the world. When the military asked for volunteers for the enhancement program, Lisa was one of the first to raise her hand. She knew it was dangerous, but she also knew that someone had to protect her family and her planet. The enhancement process took 6 months, and Katie barely saw her mother during that time. When Lisa came home, she looked the same, but she was different. She could move faster than any human should be able to move. She could see in the dark, and she could hold her breath for almost an hour. She could lift things that should have been too heavy, and she could hear sounds that were too quiet for normal people. Lisa was assigned to a team called Deep 6. There were 6 enhanced SEALs in the squad, and they were sent on the most dangerous missions. They would sneak onto alien ships and destroy them from the inside. They would rescue human prisoners from alien camps. They would steal alien technology and bring it back to Earth so scientists could study it. Katie explained that her mother's squad was led by Commander Jake Rodriguez, who had been a Marine before he was enhanced. There was also Sergeant Amy Patterson, who could hack into any computer system, including alien ones. Lieutenant Chris Bradley was an expert with explosives, and he could make bombs out of almost anything. Corporal Maria Gonzalez was the team medic, but she could also fly any kind of ship. Petty Officer Tony Clark was the youngest member of the team, but he was the best sniper anyone had ever seen. The missions got longer and more dangerous as the war continued. At first, Lisa would be gone for just a few days or maybe a week. Then the mission started lasting for months. The aliens had bases all over the solar system, and Deep 6 had to travel very far to reach them. Katie had not seen her mother for 4 months, and she missed her terribly, but she was also proud of what Lisa was doing. Dr. Carter listened to every word, and she could see that Katie was telling the truth. The little girl knew too many details about military operations and alien technology for this to be made up. Dr. Carter had worked with many children who told stories to cope with their problems. But this was different. Katie was not making up a fantasy world to escape from reality. She was trying to explain a reality that was too big and scary for most adults to understand. Katie told Dr. Carter about the times when her mother would call home from space. Lisa would use a special encrypted communication system that could reach Earth from anywhere in the solar system. The calls were always short because the aliens might detect the signal. Lisa would tell Katie that she loved her and that she was fighting to make the world safe for her daughter. Sometimes Katie could hear explosions and alarms in the background of the calls. The hardest part for Katie was not being able to tell anyone about what her mother really did. The military had strict rules about keeping the alien war secret from most of the population. Only the families of enhanced soldiers knew the truth, and they had to sign papers promising never to talk about it. Katie had to lie to her friends and teachers about where her mother was. She had to pretend that Lisa was just away on regular military training. Dr. Carter asked Katie why the war was being kept secret from everyone. Katie explained that the military leaders were worried about causing panic. If everyone knew that aliens were trying to invade Earth, then people might riot or give up hope. The leaders thought it was better to fight the war quietly while normal life continued on Earth. Only the families of the soldiers and the government officials knew what was really happening. Katie looked at all the people in the courtroom reading their emergency alerts, and she knew that the secret was about to come out. The aliens must be attacking Earth directly now instead of just fighting in space. Her mother and the other enhanced soldiers would have to come home to defend the planet. Maybe now everyone would understand why Lisa had to be away from her family for so long. Dr. Carter believed every word that Katie had told her. She stood up and walked over to Judge Williams, who was still trying to figure out what the emergency alerts meant. She told him that he needed to listen very carefully to what Katie Morrison had been trying to tell him, because it might be the truth. The courtroom felt cold and empty as Katie Morrison sat in the hard wooden chair next to her father. She was only 12 years old, but she felt much older today. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap, and she kept looking at the big doors at the back of the room. She hoped her mom would walk through those doors any minute now. Danny Morrison shifted nervously beside his daughter. He kept checking his watch and wiping sweat from his forehead. He knew this was not going well. His ex-wife was supposed to be here for this custody hearing, but her chair sat empty. The judge kept looking at that empty chair with angry eyes. Judge Franklin Williams was a big man with gray hair and thick glasses. He had been a judge for 20 years, and he thought he had seen everything. Today he was deciding who would take care of Katie. Her parents had divorced 2 years ago, and now they were fighting over custody. The problem was that Katie's mother was nowhere to be found. Margaret Stone sat at the other table with her papers spread out in front of her. She was Danny's lawyer, and she was trying to prove that Lisa Morrison was a bad mother. Every few minutes she would point at the empty chair and shake her head like she was very disappointed. Katie could not stay quiet anymore. She stood up and said in a clear voice that her mother was away on important military work. She said Lisa was a Navy SEAL, and she was doing classified operations that were very dangerous. The little girl's voice was strong, and she looked right at the judge when she spoke. Judge Williams took off his glasses and cleaned them slowly. He had heard many excuses from parents who did not show up to court. Some said they were sick. Some said their car broke down. Some said they had to work. But this was the first time a child had told him that a parent was on a secret mission. The judge put his glasses back on and leaned forward. He asked Katie if she really expected him to believe that her mother was some kind of secret agent. His voice was not mean, but it was not kind either. He sounded like he was talking to someone who was trying to trick him. Katie's face turned red, but she did not back down. She said her mother had been gone for 4 months on a mission that was so secret that even Katie did not know where she was. She said Lisa called when she could, but sometimes weeks went by without any contact. Katie explained that her mother had special training and special equipment, and she was fighting enemies that most people did not even know existed. Margaret Stone stood up and said this was exactly what she was talking about. She said that Lisa Morrison was clearly an unfit mother who filled her daughter's head with crazy stories. She argued that a real mother would be here today fighting for her child. She said that Katie needed stability, and that meant living with her father full-time. Danny Morrison looked uncomfortable. He loved his daughter, but he also knew that Lisa was telling the truth about her job. The problem was that Lisa's work was so classified that he could not prove it. He had signed papers promising never to talk about what Lisa really did for the military. Even in court, he was not allowed to explain where his ex-wife really was. The judge asked Danny directly if he knew where his ex-wife was. Danny looked down at his hands and said he could not discuss it. This made Judge Williams even more angry. He said that this was a court of law and people could not just refuse to answer questions because they did not want to. Katie jumped up again and said her father was not lying. She said there were bad people trying to hurt Earth, and her mother was one of the soldiers fighting them. She said the enemies were not from Earth and they wanted to take over the planet. Katie's voice got louder as she talked, and she started to cry, but she kept talking. The judge had heard enough. He told Katie to sit down and be quiet. He said that he understood that divorce was hard for children and sometimes they made up stories to feel better. He said that her mother's job was not his concern. His only concern was making sure Katie had a stable home. Margaret Stone smiled and said that Danny Morrison was a good father with a steady job and a nice house. She said he could provide the stability that Katie needed. She said that Lisa Morrison had clearly abandoned her family and did not deserve to have custody of her child. Katie started to shake with anger. She stood up one more time and said that her mother had not abandoned anyone. She said Lisa was protecting everyone, including the judge and the lawyer and her father. She said that if her mother was not out there fighting, then none of them would be safe. Judge Williams banged his gavel hard on the desk. The loud noise echoed through the quiet courtroom. He told Katie that she needed to stop telling stories and accept the truth. He said that her mother was not coming to court because she did not care enough to be here. The words hit Katie like a punch in the stomach. She knew her mother cared more than anyone could understand. Lisa had cried when she left for her mission. She had hugged Katie for a long time and promised to come home as soon as she could. Katie knew her mother was risking her life every day to keep the world safe. The judge started to speak about his decision. He said that based on the evidence, he had to award full custody to Danny Morrison. He said that Lisa Morrison had shown that she was not fit to be a mother by refusing to appear in court. He said that children needed parents who put them first. Katie felt like the world was ending. She wanted to scream that the judge was wrong. She wanted to tell him that her mother was the bravest person in the world. She wanted to explain that Lisa was putting Katie first by fighting to keep her safe, but no one would listen to a 12-year-old girl. The judge was about to sign the papers when something strange happened. All the phones in the courtroom started buzzing at the same time. People looked confused as they pulled out their phones and saw emergency alerts flashing on their screens. The alert said that Earth was under attack, and all military personnel needed to report for duty. Immediately, Katie looked up at the judge with tears in her eyes and said that now he would see that she was telling the truth. Judge Williams looked at Dr. Carter like she had lost her mind. He had been dealing with this case for hours, and he was tired of hearing stories about aliens and secret missions. He told Dr. Carter that children often made up elaborate fantasies when their parents disappointed them. He said that he was not going to let a 12-year-old girl delay justice with her imagination. Dr. Carter tried to explain that Katie's story had too many specific details to be made up. She said that the emergency alerts might be connected to what Katie was saying about her mother. Judge Williams waved his hand and said that the alerts were probably just a test of the emergency system, or maybe there was a bad storm coming. Katie felt her heart breaking as she watched the adults argue about whether she was telling the truth. She had spent 3 years keeping her mother's secret, and now, when she finally tried to tell someone, they thought she was lying. She stood up and walked to the middle of the courtroom where everyone could see her. In a loud, clear voice, Katie said that her mother was not abandoning her family. She said that Lisa Morrison was 3 solar systems away, fighting creatures that wanted to destroy Earth. She said that while everyone was sitting in this comfortable courtroom arguing about custody, her mother was risking her life to keep them all safe. Judge Williams had heard enough. His face turned red and he told Katie to sit down immediately. He said that he was tired of these ridiculous stories, and he was going to make his final decision right now. He said that any parent who cared about their child would be here in court instead of playing games with the legal system. Katie started to cry, but she did not sit down. She said that her mother wanted to be here more than anything in the world, but she could not leave her squad when they were in the middle of a mission. She said that Lisa had saved hundreds of human lives and stopped the aliens from getting closer to Earth. She said that her mother was a hero even if no one believed it. Margaret Stone stood up and said that this had gone on long enough. She said that Katie obviously needed counseling to help her deal with her mother's abandonment. She argued that these fantasy stories proved that Lisa Morrison had damaged her daughter psychologically by leaving her for months at a time. Danny Morrison finally found his voice and said that his daughter was not making up stories. He said that he could not give details because of the papers he had signed, but Katie was telling the truth about Lisa's work. Judge Williams told Danny that he was out of order, and that parents could not just claim their ex-spouses were on secret missions when they did not want to follow court orders. Katie looked around the courtroom at all the adults who refused to believe her. She felt more alone than she had ever felt in her life. She wished her mother was there to hold her and tell her everything would be okay. She wished she could prove to everyone that Lisa Morrison was the bravest person in the world. Judge Williams picked up his gavel and said he was ready to announce his decision. He said that based on the evidence presented, he had no choice but to award full custody to Danny Morrison. He said that Lisa Morrison had shown complete disregard for her daughter's welfare by failing to appear in court. He said that children needed parents who would put them first instead of chasing after imaginary adventures. Katie screamed that they were not imaginary. She said that the aliens were real and they were coming to Earth right now. She said that her mother's squad was probably already on their way home to defend the planet. She begged the judge to wait just a little longer before making his decision. Judge Williams raised his gavel to bang it on his desk and make his ruling final. At that exact moment, every phone and computer in the courtroom started making loud alarm sounds. The emergency broadcast system activated and a serious voice filled the room. The voice said that this was not a test and that Earth was under immediate threat from hostile alien forces. Everyone in the courtroom stopped what they were doing and listened to the broadcast. The voice explained that unidentified ships had been detected approaching Earth and that all military personnel were ordered to report for duty immediately. The voice said that civilians should remain calm and stay indoors until further notice. The voice said that enhanced military units were being recalled from deep space operations to defend the home planet. Katie looked at Judge Williams with tears streaming down her face. She said that now he would have to believe her because the truth was being broadcast for everyone to hear. She said that her mother and the other enhanced soldiers were coming home to save them all. Judge Williams sat frozen with his gavel still raised in the air. He looked around the courtroom at all the people who were staring at their phones in shock and fear. He looked at Margaret Stone, who had gone pale and was no longer arguing about custody. He looked at Danny Morrison, who was nodding his head because he knew this day would eventually come. The emergency broadcast continued with more details. The voice said that the approaching alien fleet was larger than any that had been detected before. It said that this appeared to be a full-scale invasion attempt rather than just a raid. The voice said that enhanced special forces units from all branches of the military were being deployed to intercept the alien ships before they could reach Earth's atmosphere. Katie wiped her eyes and stood up straight. She looked at Judge Williams and said that her mother had been preparing for this day for 3 years. She said that Lisa and her squad knew the aliens better than anyone, and they would not let Earth fall. She said that Deep Six had never lost a mission, and they would not start losing now. The courtroom was completely quiet except for the emergency broadcast. Everyone was trying to understand that the world had just changed forever. The secret war that had been fought in space for 3 years was about to come to Earth. The enhanced soldiers who had been protecting humanity in the shadows were about to become the most important people on the planet. Judge Williams slowly lowered his gavel without banging it. He looked at Katie Morrison and realized that this 12-year-old girl had been carrying a terrible burden for years. She had known that her planet was in danger and that her mother was one of the few people standing between Earth and destruction. She had tried to tell him the truth, but he had been too stubborn and too close-minded to listen. The emergency doors at the back of the courtroom suddenly opened, and several military officers in uniforms ran inside. They were looking for anyone with family members in the enhanced units. They needed to know where those families were so they could be moved to secure locations before the battle began. The military officers quickly identified Danny and Katie Morrison from their list of enhanced soldier families. One of the officers was a tall woman with short blonde hair who introduced herself as Colonel Patricia Hayes. She told them that all family members of Deep Six Squad were being moved to a secure bunker until the threat was over. She said they needed to leave the courthouse immediately. Katie shook her head and said she was not going anywhere until her mother arrived. She said that Lisa would come to the courthouse first because she knew Katie would be here for the custody hearing. Colonel Hayes looked surprised that a 12-year-old girl knew so much about military operations, but she did not argue with Katie. Judge Williams was still trying to process everything that was happening. He asked Colonel Hayes if the alien threat was really as serious as the broadcasts were making it sound. The colonel looked at him with grim eyes and said that this was the moment they had all been preparing for. She said that if the enhanced units could not stop the invasion fleet, then Earth would fall within days. Margaret Stone had packed up her papers and was trying to leave the courtroom quietly. She realized that the custody case was no longer important compared to what was happening in space. She also realized that she had been completely wrong about Lisa Morrison. Instead of being an irresponsible mother, Lisa was actually one of Earth's greatest protectors. The emergency broadcast system activated again, and everyone listened carefully. The voice announced that the first wave of alien ships had been engaged by human forces at the edge of the solar system. It said that enhanced special forces units were performing beyond expectations and had already destroyed several enemy vessels. The voice urged everyone to remain calm and trust in the brave men and women defending Earth. Katie smiled for the first time all day when she heard that the enhanced soldiers were winning their battles. She knew her mother was out there fighting alongside her squad to protect everyone. She looked at Judge Williams and said that maybe now he understood why Lisa could not come to a custody hearing when the fate of the world was at stake. Suddenly, the building started to shake and everyone could hear a loud rumbling sound from outside. Colonel Hayes grabbed her radio and spoke quickly to someone at military headquarters. After a few seconds, she smiled and told everyone that they were about to witness something incredible. She said that Deep Six Squad was requesting permission to land at the courthouse to pick up Katie Morrison. Judge Williams looked confused and asked why a military squad would come to a courthouse during an alien invasion. Colonel Hayes explained that Lisa Morrison had insisted on collecting her daughter personally before joining the main battle. She said that the enhanced soldiers never left family members behind when Earth was threatened. Katie ran to the big windows that looked out over the courthouse parking lot. She could see people pointing up at the sky and taking pictures with their phones. High above the city, a sleek black aircraft was descending through the clouds. It looked like nothing Katie had ever seen before, with smooth curved surfaces and no visible engines or propellers. The aircraft moved silently through the air and landed perfectly in the courthouse parking lot. It was much larger than Katie had expected, and it gleamed like polished metal in the sunlight. The ship had no markings or flags, but Katie knew it was her mother's transport because she could feel it in her heart. Everyone in the courtroom pressed against the windows to get a better look at the alien technology that humans had captured and improved. The ship's landing ramp lowered with a soft hissing sound, and 6 figures in advanced combat armor began walking toward the courthouse. They moved with perfect coordination, like they had trained together for years. Katie could tell which one was her mother, even though all the soldiers looked identical in their armor. Lisa Morrison walked with a confident stride that Katie recognized immediately. The armor was matte black with blue highlights, and it covered the soldiers from head to toe. Each soldier carried weapons that looked both human and alien at the same time. The courthouse security guards did not know what to do when 6 heavily armed soldiers approached the building. Colonel Hayes quickly radioed ahead to tell security that these were friendly forces and they should be allowed inside immediately. She said that Deep Six Squad had clearance to go anywhere they needed to go. Katie heard heavy footsteps in the hallway outside the courtroom, and her heart started beating faster. She had not seen her mother for 4 months, and she could barely contain her excitement. She knew that Lisa was probably exhausted from fighting battles in space, but she was still coming to see her daughter. Before the final battle for Earth, the courtroom doors opened and Lisa Morrison walked inside, followed by her 5 squad members. Even with their helmets on, Katie could tell that these soldiers had been through intense combat recently. Their armor showed scorch marks and dents from alien weapons. Their movements were precise, but tired, like they had been fighting for days without rest. Lisa Morrison stopped in the middle of the courtroom and slowly removed her helmet. Her dark hair was shorter than Katie remembered, and there were new lines around her eyes from months of stress and danger. But when Lisa saw her daughter, her face lit up with the biggest smile Katie had ever seen. Judge Williams stared at the woman in advanced combat armor who was supposedly an unfit mother. He could see intelligence and determination in her eyes, along with a fierce love for her child. He realized that he had made a terrible mistake by doubting Katie's story. This was clearly a woman who would do anything to protect her family and her planet. Commander Jake Rodriguez stepped forward and removed his helmet as well. He was a Hispanic man with graying hair and kind eyes that had seen too much combat. He looked at Judge Williams and said that he needed to speak on behalf of Petty Officer Morrison. He said that Lisa was one of the finest soldiers he had ever commanded, and one of the best mothers he had ever known. Sergeant Amy Patterson also removed her helmet, revealing a young African American woman with intelligent eyes and a serious expression. She told Judge Williams that Lisa talked about her daughter every single day, and that Katie was the reason Lisa fought so hard against the aliens. She said that every mission Lisa went on was motivated by her desire to keep Earth safe for her child. Lieutenant Chris Bradley was a tall white man with sandy hair and a boyish face that made him look younger than his 30 years. He said that Lisa Morrison had saved his life at least 3 times during their missions together. He said that she was the kind of person who would risk everything to protect others, and that included protecting her daughter from the truth about how dangerous their work really was. Corporal Maria Gonzalez was a small, Latina woman with fierce dark eyes and calloused hands that showed her expertise with weapons and vehicles. She told Judge Williams that Lisa had turned down easier assignments so she could stay with Deep Six Squad. She said that Lisa believed her experience and skills were needed on the most dangerous missions to give humanity the best chance of survival. Petty Officer Tony Clark was the youngest member of the squad at only 25 years old. He was a tall, thin white man with red hair and freckles who looked like he should be in college instead of fighting aliens. He said that Lisa Morrison was like a big sister to him and that she had taught him everything he knew about being a soldier and a good person. Katie ran across the courtroom and threw her arms around her mother's armored waist. Lisa hugged her daughter tightly while still wearing the heavy combat gear that had kept her alive in space. She whispered that she had missed Katie every single day and that she was sorry for being away so long. She promised that after today the war would be over and they could be a family again. Lisa Morrison gently pulled away from her daughter and walked toward Judge Williams with military precision. She reached into a compartment on her armor and pulled out a sealed envelope containing her official military identification and deployment orders. She handed the documents to the judge with a crisp salute and said that she was reporting as ordered. For the custody hearing, Judge Williams opened the envelope with shaking hands and began reading the documents inside. The papers had official seals and signatures from the highest levels of the military command. They confirmed that Petty Officer First Class Lisa Morrison was assigned to Deep Space Operations Unit 6 and had been deployed on classified missions for the past 18 months. The judge had never seen military documents with such high security clearances. The deployment orders explained that Deep Six Squad had been operating in the Kepler system, which was over 400 light-years from Earth. They had been disrupting alien supply lines and gathering intelligence on enemy fleet movements. The documents showed that Lisa's unit had destroyed 12 enemy ships and rescued 43 human prisoners. During their deployment, Lisa explained to Judge Williams that the Kithra had built a major staging area in the Kepler system where they gathered ships and supplies for their planned invasion of Earth. Deep Six Squad had spent months infiltrating the alien base and learning about their technology and tactics. The intelligence they gathered had allowed Earth's defenses to prepare for the invasion that was happening right now. Commander Rodriguez stepped forward and presented his own identification to show that he was authorized to speak about classified operations. He told Judge Williams that Lisa Morrison had volunteered for the most dangerous missions during their deployment. He said that she had been injured twice while saving other squad members and that her actions had probably prevented the alien invasion from happening much sooner. The commander explained that the enhanced soldiers like Deep Six Squad were humanity's best hope for survival. The aliens were stronger and faster than normal humans, and they had technology that was hundreds of years ahead of Earth's science. Only enhanced soldiers with captured alien equipment could fight the Kithara on equal terms. Judge Williams asked why the war had been kept secret from the general population. Lisa explained that the military leaders were worried about causing mass panic and social collapse. She said that the economy would have crashed and governments would have fallen if everyone knew that aliens were trying to invade Earth. The leaders decided it was better to fight the war quietly while normal life continued on the planet. Sergeant Patterson added that the secrecy had also helped confuse the aliens about human capabilities. She said that the Kithra thought they were only fighting small groups of human soldiers, when actually they were facing the best trained and equipped forces that Earth could produce. The aliens had underestimated human adaptability and determination because they did not understand how quickly humans could learn and improve. Lisa told Judge Williams that the hardest part of her service was being away from Katie for so long. She said that every mission was motivated by her desire to protect her daughter and make sure Katie could grow up in a free world. She explained that she called home whenever possible, but communication with Earth was difficult and dangerous when operating behind enemy lines. The judge asked Lisa why she had not requested a transfer to Earth-based duties so she could be with her family. Lisa looked at Katie and then back at the judge and said that her experience and skills were needed on the front lines. She said that Deep Six Squad had the best success rate of any enhanced unit and that her leaving could have cost lives and missions. Lieutenant Bradley spoke up and said that Lisa had actually been offered promotions and easier assignments several times, but she had turned them all down. He said that she believed her duty was to her squad and to the mission of protecting Earth. He said that she was the kind of soldier who led from the front and never asked others to take risks that she would not take herself. Dr. Carter had been listening to everything, and she stepped forward to address Judge Williams. She said that as a child psychologist, she could see that Katie Morrison was a well-adjusted and intelligent girl who clearly had a strong relationship with her mother. She said that Katie's knowledge about military operations and her mature understanding of the gay situation showed that Lisa had prepared her daughter well for the challenges they faced as a military family. Judge Williams looked at all the evidence in front of him and realized that he had made serious errors in judgment. He had assumed that Lisa Morrison was an irresponsible parent when actually she was one of the most important people defending Earth. He had doubted Katie's story when the little girl was trying to explain the truth about her mother's heroic service. Lisa knelt down next to Katie and explained that she had to leave again very soon to join the final battle against the alien invasion fleet. She said that this would probably be the most dangerous mission of the war, but it would also be the last one. She promised Katie that after today they would never have to be separated for such a long time again. Katie hugged her mother tightly and said that she understood why Lisa had to go. She said that she was proud of her mother for protecting Earth and that she would be brave while Lisa was fighting. She made Lisa promise to come home safely so they could be a family again. Commander Rodriguez checked his communication device and announced that Deep Six Squad was needed immediately at the main battle zone. He said that the alien fleet was larger than expected and that all enhanced units were being deployed to stop them before they could reach Earth's atmosphere. The fate of the planet would be decided in the next few hours. Lisa stood up and put her helmet back on as her squad prepared to leave. She told Judge Williams that she hoped he would consider all the evidence when making his custody decision. She said that Katie was the most important thing in her life and that everything she did was motivated by love for her daughter. Judge Williams stood up from his bench and said that he had already made his decision based on the new evidence. He said that any parent who would risk their life to protect their child and their planet was clearly fit to have custody. He said that the custody case was dismissed and that Lisa Morrison should retain all her parental rights. Margaret Stone tried to object, but Judge Williams cut her off. He said that he had heard enough evidence to convince him that Lisa Morrison was not only a fit parent, but a genuine hero. He said that Katie was lucky to have such a brave and dedicated mother. Lisa thanked the judge and turned to leave with her squad. Katie ran after her and hugged her one more time. Lisa promised that she would come back and that they would have plenty of time to be together once the war was over. She said that Katie should stay with her father and Dr. Carter until it was safe. The squad walked out of the courtroom together and headed back to their transport ship. Judge Williams and everyone else followed them outside to watch them leave. The black aircraft lifted off silently and disappeared into the sky as it headed toward the battle that would determine the future of humanity. As Deep Six Squad's transport disappeared into the clouds, the air raid sirens began wailing across the city. The sound was loud and haunting, and it made everyone realize that the war had finally come to Earth. Katie stood in the courthouse parking lot with her father and Dr. Carter, watching the sky for signs of the battle that was about to begin. Colonel Hayes received urgent orders through her radio and quickly organized the evacuation of all civilians from the area. She told Katie and Danny that they needed to get to the underground bunker immediately, where they would be safe from any fighting that might reach the ground. Katie did not want to leave because she wanted to watch for her mother's return, but Danny convinced her that Lisa would want them to stay safe. The bunker was located beneath the courthouse, and it was filled with families of other enhanced soldiers. Katie met children whose parents were fighting in space just like her mother. Some of the kids were scared and crying, But Katie tried to comfort them by explaining that the enhanced soldiers were the best fighters in the galaxy and they would protect Earth. Above ground, the battle was beginning in earnest. Through the bunker's communication system, everyone could hear reports from the military command center. The alien fleet had been detected at the edge of the solar system, and it was much larger than any previous invasion force. There were over 200 Kythera ships approaching Earth, and they all looked ready for a major battle. The enhanced special forces units from all branches of the military were being deployed to intercept the aliens before they could reach Earth's atmosphere. Katie learned that there were 12 squads like Deep Six operating in space, and each squad had 6 enhanced soldiers. That meant only 72 enhanced fighters were standing between Earth and the largest alien invasion force ever assembled. Dr. Carter sat with Katie and tried to keep her calm as they listened to the battle reports. The first engagement happened near Mars, where 3 enhanced squads attacked the leading edge of the alien fleet. The human soldiers were using captured Kythera technology, along with improvements that Earth's scientists had made to the alien designs. The reports coming in were confusing and scary. The enhanced soldiers were fighting better than anyone had expected, but the aliens had brought new weapons and tactics that no one had seen before. The Kythera seemed to have learned from their previous defeats, and they were prepared for human-enhanced soldiers. This time, Katie worried about her mother and the rest of Deep Six Squad as she listened to the radio chatter from the battle zone. She could hear pilots calling for help and commanders giving orders for tactical retreats. It sounded like the humans were holding their own, but just barely against the massive alien force. Commander Rodriguez's voice came through the radio as he reported Deep Six Squad's position and status. He said they were engaging a group of alien heavy cruisers near Jupiter, and that the enemy ships were more heavily armed than expected. Katie felt her heart racing as she heard explosions and weapon fire in the background of the transmission. The battle reports continued for hours as the alien fleet pushed deeper into the solar system toward Earth. The enhanced soldiers were fighting desperately to stop them, but the Kythera had overwhelming numbers. For every alien ship that was destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Dr. Carter explained to Katie that the enhanced soldiers had several advantages, even though they were outnumbered. Human fighters were more adaptable and creative than the aliens, who seemed to follow rigid battle plans. The humans also had better communication and teamwork, which allowed them to coordinate complex attacks against larger enemy forces. Katie learned that her mother's squad was specialized in close quarters combat aboard alien ships. Deep Six would use small, fast ships to get close to Kythera vessels and then board them to fight the aliens directly. This was extremely dangerous, but it was also very effective because the aliens did not expect humans to attack them on their own ships. The radio crackled with another transmission from Commander Rodriguez reporting that Deep Six had successfully captured an alien command ship and was using it to gather intelligence about the invasion fleet. Katie felt proud that her mother's squad was getting important information that could help win the battle. As the hours passed, the alien fleet continued to advance toward Earth. Despite the fierce resistance from the enhanced soldiers, the military commanders on the ground began preparing for the possibility that some alien ships might break through the space defenses and attack the planet. Directly, fighter jets scrambled from military bases around the world, and surface-to-air missile systems were activated. The regular military forces that had been kept in reserve were finally being mobilized as the last line of defense for Earth. Katie realized that if the enhanced soldiers failed, then millions of people would die in the alien invasion. The reports from space became more urgent as the battle reached the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. This was considered the last major defensive line before the aliens would have a clear path to Earth. If the enhanced soldiers could not stop the invasion fleet here, then the war would move to Earth's atmosphere and surface. Katie heard her mother's voice for the first time in hours as Lisa reported that Deep Six Squad was preparing for a desperate mission. They were going to attempt to destroy the alien command ship that was controlling the entire invasion fleet. If they could eliminate the command structure, the other alien ships might retreat or become confused enough for the remaining human forces to defeat them. The mission was extremely dangerous because the command ship was heavily defended and located in the center of the alien fleet. Deep Six Squad would have to fight their way through hundreds of enemy vessels to reach their target. Even if they succeeded in destroying The command ship, they might not be able to escape. Alive, Katie wanted to talk to her mother one more time before the dangerous mission, but the communication systems were too busy with military traffic. She could only listen as Lisa and her squad prepared for what might be their final battle. Katie closed her eyes and prayed that her mother would come home safely. Commander Rodriguez gave the final mission briefing to Deep Six Squad over the radio. He explained that they would use the captured alien command ship to get close to the main Kythera fleet without being detected. Once they were in position, they would transfer to smaller ships and attack the primary command vessel from multiple directions. The plan required perfect timing and coordination between all 6 squad members. Each soldier had a specific role to play, and if any of them failed, the entire mission would be in jeopardy. Katie listened as her mother acknowledged her orders and confirmed that she was ready to begin the most important mission of her military career. Deep Six Squad launched their attack just as the alien fleet reached the inner solar system. Katie and everyone in the bunker held their breath as they waited to hear whether the mission would succeed or fail. The fate of Earth and all of humanity depended on 6 enhanced soldiers fighting against impossible odds in the darkness of space. The radio went silent for almost an hour after Deep Six Squad began their mission, and Katie felt like she could barely breathe. Everyone in the bunker was listening for any news about the attack on the alien command ship. Dr. Carter held Katie's hand as they waited to hear whether Lisa and her squad had succeeded or if they had been captured or killed by the Kythera. Finally, Commander Rodriguez's voice came through the speakers, and he sounded exhausted but victorious. He reported that Deep Six Squad had successfully boarded the main alien command ship and was fighting their way toward the control center. The Kythera defenders were fierce, but the enhanced soldiers were using their superior training and captured alien weapons to push deeper into the ship. Katie could hear the sounds of battle in the background as Lisa and her squad fought through corridors filled with hostile aliens. The Kythera were larger and stronger than humans, but the enhanced soldiers were faster and smarter. They used teamwork and tactics that the aliens could not understand or counter effectively. Sergeant Patterson reported that she had accessed the alien computer systems and was downloading important intelligence about Kythera technology and battle plans. She said that the information would help Earth scientists develop better defenses and weapons for future conflicts. The aliens had made a critical mistake by bringing their most advanced technology so close to Earth. Lieutenant Bradley was using his expertise with explosives to plant charges throughout the alien command ship. His plan was to destroy the vessel from the inside once the squad had completed their mission and escaped. The destruction of the command ship would eliminate the coordination and leadership of the entire invasion. Fleet Corporal Gonzalez reported that she had found human prisoners aboard the alien ship and was working to free them. Many of the prisoners were enhanced soldiers from other squads who had been captured during previous battles. Getting these experienced fighters back into the war would be a major advantage for Earth's forces. Petty Officer Clark was providing sniper support for the rest of the squad as they advanced through the ship. His enhanced vision and reflexes allowed him to eliminate alien defenders from long range before they could threaten his squad mates. His accuracy with alien weapons was even better than his legendary skill with human firearms. Lisa Morrison led her squad deeper into the command ship toward the bridge, where the alien fleet commanders were directing the invasion. She could hear the Kythera communicating in their clicking insect language as they tried to coordinate their defenses. The aliens were clearly surprised that humans had managed to board their most important vessel. The battle aboard the command ship was brutal and desperate. The Kythera fought with the fury of creatures defending their nest, while the humans fought with the determination of parents protecting their children. Every corridor was contested, and every room had to be cleared of alien defenders before the squad could advance. Katie listened to the radio reports and tried to imagine what her mother was going through. She knew that Lisa was probably scared, but she also knew that her mother was one of the bravest people in the galaxy. Lisa had trained for years to fight aliens in close combat, and she would not let her squad down when Earth needed them most. Commander Rodriguez reached the alien bridge first and began fighting the Kythera fleet commanders in hand-to-hand combat. The alien leaders were even larger and more dangerous than regular Kythera soldiers, but the commander's enhanced strength and speed allowed him to match them blow for blow. The fate of the invasion might depend on this single combat between the human leader and the alien. commanders. The other squad members joined the fight on the bridge, and together they overwhelmed the alien command staff. Sergeant Patterson quickly accessed the main computer system and began shutting down the coordination networks that controlled the entire invasion fleet. Without central command, the alien ships would have to fight as individuals instead of as a coordinated force. Lieutenant Bradley finished planting his explosives and reported that the command ship would be destroyed in 10 minutes. That gave Deep Six Squad just enough time to rescue the human prisoners and escape to their own ships. The timing would have to be perfect because they needed to get clear before the explosion while also avoiding the confused alien fleet. The rescue of the human prisoners went faster than expected because many of them were enhanced soldiers who could fight alongside Deep Six Squad. Corporal Gonzalez led the freed prisoners through the ship, while the rest of the squad provided cover. Having extra enhanced soldiers made the escape much easier than it would have been otherwise. Katie heard her mother's voice as Lisa coordinated the evacuation from the alien command ship. She sounded calm and professional, even though she was probably in terrible danger. Katie felt proud that her mother was leading other soldiers to safety while also completing the most important mission of the war. The explosion of the alien command ship lit up space like a new star as Lieutenant Bradley's charges detonated throughout the massive vessel. The destruction was so complete that nothing remained except scattered debris and expanding clouds of gas. The alien fleet immediately began showing signs of confusion and disorganization without their command structure. Deep Six Squad and the rescued prisoners made it to safety just moments before the explosion. They regrouped with other enhanced units and began coordinating attacks on the now leaderless alien fleet. Without central command, the Kithara ships were fighting individually and making tactical mistakes that the humans could exploit. The battle turned in humanity's favor as the enhanced soldiers pressed their advantage against the confused aliens. Ship after ship was destroyed as the humans used superior tactics and teamwork to overcome the Kithara's numerical advantage. The aliens began retreating toward the edge of the solar system as their invasion plan fell. Apart. Katie cheered along with everyone else in the bunker as the radio reports confirmed that the alien fleet was retreating. The enhanced soldiers had achieved the impossible by defeating a force that outnumbered them by more than 20-1. Earth was safe, and the Kithara invasion had been stopped before it could reach the planet. Commander. Rodriguez reported that Deep Six Squad was pursuing the retreating aliens to make sure they left the solar system completely. The squad had suffered some injuries during the battle, but all 6 members were alive and able to continue fighting. Katie felt relief wash over her as she realized that her mother had survived the most dangerous mission of the war. The victory celebrations began immediately as news of the successful defense spread around the world. People who had been hiding in bunkers and safe rooms emerged to celebrate in the streets. The secret war that had been fought in space for 3 years was finally over, and humanity had proven that they could defend their home planet against any threat. Katie knew that her mother would be coming home soon and that they could finally be a normal family again. The war was over, and Lisa would no longer have to risk her life on dangerous missions in deep space. Katie could hardly wait to hug her mother and tell her how proud she was of everything Lisa had accomplished. The alien fleet continued retreating beyond the edge of the solar system as the enhanced human forces pursued them to make sure they would not return. Reports from the battle zone confirmed that the Kithara had suffered massive casualties, and their invasion force was completely broken. The few surviving alien ships were fleeing back toward their home territories and showed no signs of wanting to continue the fight. Katie and the other families were allowed to leave the underground bunker as military officials confirmed that Earth was no longer under immediate threat. The little girl ran outside and looked up at the sky, hoping to see her mother's transport ship returning from the battle. The sun was setting, and the first stars were becoming visible in the darkening sky. News reports were broadcasting live coverage of the victory celebrations happening in cities around the world. People were dancing in the streets and singing songs of triumph as they learned that the secret war was finally over. The enhanced soldiers who had been fighting in space for 3 years were being hailed as the greatest heroes in human history. Dr. Carter stayed with Katie and Danny as they waited for word about Deep Six Squad's return. The radio communications from space indicated that all the enhanced units were regrouping near Mars before making the journey back to Earth. The soldiers needed time to treat their wounded and repair their ships after the intense battle with the alien fleet. Judge Williams approached Katie and her father with a serious expression on his face. He said that he owed them both a sincere apology for doubting Katie's story about her mother's military service. He said that he had been wrong to assume that Lisa Morrison was an unfit parent when she was actually one of the most important people defending Earth. The judge explained that he had learned valuable lessons about making assumptions and jumping to conclusions. He said that Katie had shown remarkable maturity and loyalty in defending her mother, even when no adults believed her story. He promised that he would be more careful in the future to listen to all the evidence before making important decisions. Margaret Stone also approached the Morrison family to apologize for her role in the custody case. She said that she had been completely wrong about Lisa Morrison and that she felt ashamed for trying to separate a hero from her daughter. She said that Katie was lucky to have such a brave and dedicated mother who would risk everything to protect her family and her planet as darkness fell over the city. The first transport ships began appearing in the sky as enhanced soldiers returned from their victory in space. Each ship that landed was met by cheering crowds of people who wanted to thank the heroes who had saved Earth. Katie watched every ship, hopefully, but none of them carried her mother's squad. Colonel Hayes received a radio message and smiled as she walked over to Katie. She said that Deep Six Squad was requesting permission to land at the courthouse just like they had done earlier in the day. Lisa Morrison wanted to return to the same place where she had left her daughter so they could be reunited where their story had begun. Katie felt her heart racing with excitement as she saw the familiar black aircraft descending through the night sky. The transport ship landed in the same parking lot where it had been just a few hours earlier, but everything had changed since then. The war was over and Lisa Morrison was coming home to stay. The landing ramp lowered and 6 figures in combat armor walked out. But this time they were moving slower and showing signs of exhaustion from the long battle. Katie could see that their armor was more damaged than before, with new scorch marks and dents from fighting. Aboard the alien command ship, Lisa Morrison removed her helmet as she walked toward her daughter, and Katie could see that her mother looked tired but happy. There was a new confidence in Lisa's eyes that came from knowing she had helped save the entire planet. She had proven that enhanced humans could defeat any alien threat when they worked together with courage and determination. Katie ran to her mother and hugged her tightly while Lisa was still wearing her battle-damaged armor. Lisa held her daughter close and whispered that the war was finally over and they would never have to be separated like this again. She said that she was proud of Katie for being so brave during the custody hearing and for believing in her mother when no one else would. The rest of Deep Six Squad gathered around the Morrison family as they celebrated their reunion. Commander Rodriguez told Judge Williams that Lisa Morrison was being recommended for the highest military honors for her service during the war. He said that she had risked her life countless times to protect Earth, and that her daughter should be proud of having such a heroic mother. Sergeant Patterson presented Katie with a small piece of alien technology as a souvenir of the war. She said that Katie had earned it by being brave enough to tell the truth about her mother's service, even when adults refused to believe her. She said that Katie's loyalty and courage reminded her of Lisa's own qualities as a soldier and a mother. Lieutenant Bradley told everyone that the intelligence gathered during the mission would help Earth prepare for any future alien threats. He said that humanity had proven they could adapt and overcome any challenge when they worked together. He said that the enhanced soldiers were proof that humans could become stronger and better when they needed to protect what they loved. Corporal Gonzalez explained that the rescued prisoners from the alien command ship were all recovering and would be reunited with their own families soon. She said that the mission had been successful beyond their wildest expectations, and that Earth was now safer than it had ever been. She thanked Katie for supporting her mother during the long deployments that made victory possible. Petty Officer Clark said that Deep Six Squad would always be a family and that Katie was an honorary member because of her courage and loyalty. He said that the squad had fought harder knowing that they were protecting children like Katie, who represented the future of humanity. He promised that they would always be there to protect Katie and her family if they were ever needed again. Judge Williams formally dismissed the custody case and declared that Lisa Morrison was not only a fit parent but an exemplary one. He said that any child would be fortunate to have a mother who was willing to risk everything to protect them. He said that Katie Morrison was lucky to have Lisa as a role model for courage and dedication. Dr. Carter told Katie that she had learned important lessons about family and sacrifice by watching the Morrison family during this crisis. She said that Katie's understanding of her mother's duty and her willingness to support Lisa's service showed remarkable maturity for someone so young. She said that Katie would grow up to be just as strong and brave as her mother. The celebration continued late into the night as more enhanced soldiers returned from the battle and were reunited with their families. Katie stayed close to her mother and listened to the stories of the final battle against the alien invasion fleet. She was proud to learn that her mother had played a crucial role in saving not just Earth but all of humanity. Lisa Morrison looked at her daughter and realized that Katie had grown up a lot during the months they had been separated. The little girl had faced a hostile courtroom with the same courage that Lisa had shown in facing hostile aliens. Katie had defended her mother's honor just as fiercely as Lisa had defended her planet. As the family prepared to go home together for the first time in months, Lisa promised Katie that her fighting days were over. The enhanced soldiers would still be needed to patrol the solar system and watch for new threats, but the major war was finished. Lisa could finally be the mother she had always wanted to be, while also serving her planet in a less dangerous role. Katie smiled and said that she understood why her mother had to fight the aliens and that she was proud of everything Lisa had accomplished. She said that she had always known her mother was a hero even when no one believed her. She said that now the whole world knew the truth about Lisa Morrison and the brave soldiers who had saved Earth from destruction.